friends. Welcome, welcome. I want to start us out today in child's pose. So you can just bring your knees out wide towards the edges of your mats. Bring the big toes together, tops of the feet to the ground, and just drop your sit bones back towards your heels. Bring your forehead to the mat with your arms lengthened out in front of you. So sometimes when we physically stop, it's the first time that we start to notice how active our mind is. And so let's start to rein in a bit of that activity of the mind. Take a big exhale, release it all the way down to empty. As you get down to the end of your breath, start to breathe in for 1, 2, 3, and hold. And then breathe in for another 1, 2, 3, and hold. Breathe in one more, 1, 2, 3, and then just hold on to that full breath and relax. And now pace your exhale slowly down to empty, just controlling the descent all the way down. At the end of it, you can feel your navel even toning back in towards your spine. And from here, start your Ujjayi breathing. So start to take deep inhales through the nose like you're sipping the air in through a straw, filling from the bottom all the way up to the top of that breath. And then on your exhale, like you're fogging up a mirror out through your nose, just releasing the air out, slow and controlled. And I like to think about it like you're riding that exhale out versus it just all flowing out the way it usually does. You're using the muscles in the back of the throat to narrow how the air comes in and then narrow how the air exits. And this simple act of breath control, right? This is what starts to bring us, our minds, into what's happening right here and right now. And it's that reminder to ourselves that we can let go a little bit of the anxieties, we can let go of the worries, we can let go of the planning. We can let all of that relax out to the side and just get to be more here and more now. So as we go through the practice, I want you to let your breath just be your guide and then simply take what works for me and leave the rest behind. Start to bring yourself out of that child's pose into a tabletop position. And then we're just going to work some cat and cow so you can drop through the belly, lift through your chest and your tailbone, getting into cow. And on your cat, you can let the head relax, the tailbone drop, and the mid-back lift up in space. Feel free to use inhales for your cows, exhales for your cats, or really just whatever feels best to you. Maybe you're taking a little bit longer in one of those poses before you move on to the next. Feel free to explore letting your hips shift forwards or backwards. Really, it's your whole torso shifting. Or pressing out to the left or to the right. We'll just find a neutral, flat back, hands and knees. Take your hips out, your knees out rather, just a little bit wider than your hips. Stay pressed into your left hand and twist your right arm open to the sky. Give a nice roll out through your wrist while you've got it extended. Breathe into it, and on an exhale, just dive your right arm underneath the left for thread the needle. Let the weight of your head and shoulder come down and rest into the ground. Your left hand or forearm can rest anywhere at your side or press at your side, helping to press you back in towards your shoulder. We could always take the back of the hand, tuck it behind you to the outside of the hip. And what's great is we get to use this breathing now not only for that mindfulness piece we were discussing, but we get to use the breath as we're inside of this pose right now, letting our bodies stretch. So feel that inhale creating space, and on the exhale, feel your body moving into that space that's created. Just come all the way down to the end of the breath that you're on, and then you can press down into that left hand, and on an inhale, take your right arm from underneath, twist open to the sky, breathe in, and as you exhale, come back down into your tabletop position. Bring your knees directly back underneath your hips. Keep your right hand underneath your shoulder and start to extend your right foot to the wall back behind you, like you're pressing your heel into the wall. Let your left arm extend forward in space, getting those fingertips out towards the front of the room. And while you're stretching towards the front and the back of the room, feel how you're plugging back into center as well, holding yourself nice and strong. And then some cat-cow-ish movements from here. So breathe in, and on your next exhale, just round your back, letting elbow, knee come in, rounding the spine. Your inhale, you can open back up, re-extend, and exhale, bring it back in. Take one more like that. Inhale, open back up. And then exhale, round it in. As you open back up, you're welcome to stay at that extension, or for a bind, we can bend the back right knee, bringing the heel to our sit bone. Reach the left hand back for the top of the foot. And then in this bind, it's this balance of kicking and pulling. So as your foot and leg kick backwards, it pulls your arm taut, and then your hand pulls back against it. The result of which is your back thigh is lifting up on level with your hips, and then your chest is getting to scoop up slightly in space. Kind of like a low cobra lift up through the back of your neck. Take a deep breath into that bind if you're there. On your exhale, we can just open back up, re-extend. Come down into the tabletop position. Excellent. And then the knees out just a little bit wider than your hips. Right hand stays under your shoulder. Inhale, reach your left arm up in space. Give that wrist a bit of a roll out. And then when you're ready for the thread the needle on this side, you can take that exhale just to dive your left arm underneath the right, extend it to the right wall, and bring your shoulder and the side of the head down to the ground. And then again, the right hand or forearm anywhere at your side, resting or pressing away from the body, or tucking that hand back behind you to the outside of your hip. We can feel the weight of the torso just coming down from the hips and resting, pressing down into the outside of the head and the arm, even providing a little stretch on the outside of the neck. And as your left fingers are extending towards the right side of the room, you might let your left shoulder pull a little bit back towards the left side of the room. Feel yourself stretching that arm out in space. And just getting in touch with the ebb and flow of the breath here. That filling and emptying. Get all the way down to the end of that breath that you're on. And then you can take that unwind, just pressing to your right hand, inhaling your left arm from underneath, twisting open to the sky, breathing in, and then letting that left hand come down to the ground. Bring your knees back in underneath your hips, and then pressing into that left palm, start to extend your left leg to the wall behind you, just like you can press your heel into the wall. Unweight the right arm and extend that forward in space. You can do pinky down, thumb up like you're high-fiving that left wall with your right hand. And then we'll do those little cat-cow movements. So breathe in to lengthen, and on your exhale, you round your back, letting elbow, knee come in. And just swimming your body through space. Inhale is extending. Exhale is rounding. We're looking for about 3 of these in all. And then we'll meet at the extension. You're welcome to stay there just holding. Or for that bind on this side, you start to bend your back left knee. Bring your heel in towards your sit bone, and then reach your right hand for the top of the foot by way of the inside arch. And that balance of kicking and pulling. We can always aid our balance just by letting our gaze stay focused on something that's not moving. Take a deep breath into it. And on your exhale, you can reopen. Bring it down into our tabletop. Now, before we move into any type of plank or anything, I'd like to warm up the wrists and the hands. So, from your tabletop, you're going to be sitting a little more back towards your heels, but drop the palms down to the mat with your thumbs to the side and your fingers backwards. And then you'll take slow motion lean backs where you peel your hands back off the mat to your fingertips, and then just slow motion rock forward, letting the heel of the palm root back into the ground. And it's not just your wrist, right? We're getting into the entirety of the hand. We're getting into the circle of the palm. We're getting into the forearms. And then if you'd like, you can take the back of your hand down into the ground. Fingers pointing to the back of the room, thumbs to the inside. Again, your sit bones can go closer back to your heels so there's not as much weight going into it. But just give a little bit of a massage, a little bit of a press, maybe some side to side. Back and forth or circles. And then to roll your wrists out, hero's pose is a great space to be. So just bringing your feet to the ground, sit bones back to your heels, and then just rolling out through your wrists. Awesome, friends. With that warm up in your hands, take yourself into your first plank. Hips right up on level with your shoulders, and feeling those biceps taking that tone into center line. Micro bend in your elbows versus your elbows all the way out and locked. So we're staying engaged in those muscles. We're going to do just a few push-ups. You can do these on your toes or on your knees with your ankles crossed. On an exhale, simply lead forward with your sternum and lower halfway to Chaturanga Dandasana. And then on the inhale, push away from the ground, lift yourself back up, and try to avoid bending at the hips. And just take these at your own pace, following the full length of your breath here. And noticing, right, it's not just in the upper body. There's so much core strength involved inside of this type of exercise. And then on an exhale, you just lower slowly all the way to the ground. Make sure your hips can comfortably press into the mat, and then start to lift your chest up off the ground. Fly your arms back and start to lift your thighs up off the ground. Inside of this locust pose, you can leave the fingers extending, elbows slightly bent, triceps lifting, shoulders toning in. You could also interlace your fingers at the knuckles and then extend the knuckles back behind you in space. Keep a little bit of that tricep lift. A little bit of a bend through the elbows. Inside of here, we always want a little bit of our length through the back of the neck. So you feel like your chin is slightly back in towards your throat. Nice and connected into your breath. And then what I've dubbed beach pose. Just lay out at the beach, relax your head and your arms. Bring your chin down, your forehead down, or the side of your head down, and then leave the feet to the ground or bend the knees, pick the feet up in space, and start to just draw these windshield wiper circles, clockwise or counterclockwise. Awesome movement for your low back. Those circles are great for our knees, and then any movement you want through your ankles or through the rest of the feet. And then to shift into our first down dog, you can move from plank to down dog, which is my preference, or you could also take a tabletop into down dog as well. I love the plank into down dog just because it really sets us up for how far away we want our hands and feet from one another. I step in a little bit closer, but there's a lot of good information there. And
Friends, just warm up your down dog as your hips lift up and back. You can let one heel pull to the ground as opposite knee bends. Feet right about hip bone distance. Hands just slightly wider than your shoulders. You warmed up the circle of your palms. Now we get to really use them. Spread out into the hands. Press into the circle of your palm. Feel the grip through your fingers. Weight of the head is relaxed rather than those elbows locked. A micro bend as you tone the biceps into center line, gripping into center line. Bend both of your knees a little bit. Reach the hips back up as far as they go. And once that full length is in, let the heels pull down towards the ground and start to take baby steps all the way up into a forward fold. You can go from your palms to your fingertips, or you can use your fists. And then as we meet up in that forward fold at the top of the mat, you can take an inhale to half lift. This is like a bent over row where your knees are slightly bent. You're pressing your hands into your shins to lengthen the spine completely out. And as the spine comes parallel to the ground, the gaze is down, crown of the head reaches forward, core nice and strong for your low back. And then what makes it like the bent over row is when you tone your shoulder blades up in towards one another, giving that upper spine some nice strength. On an exhale, just let it all release down. And a ragdoll frame can feel fantastic. Opposite hand to the outside of opposite elbow or bicep. Truly letting the weight of your head just release out here. Letting your torso gently sway or rock. Let your arms hang heavy. And then vertebrae by vertebrae start to wind up, letting your head be the very last thing that comes upright. And as your head comes upright, pressing to the ground, inhaling your arms wide and tall. And on your exhale, you can just bring your hands together down in front of your heart center. Inhale, lengthen and lift up, breathe into that mountain. And on your exhale, hinge out from your hips and control your swan dive down into a forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, lengthen through your spine. Tone around it, plant your hands, come back to your plank. Your choice, you could go to down dog, you could drop halfway, inhale, upward facing dog, you could use a low cobra. Just a note on up dog, we're holding the body weight on the tops of the feet and the hands. Strong with the arms in, but really holding the hips up off the ground in that back bend. And then we take our meet up in our down dog. As you come into it the second time, start to find more of the holding aspect of it, although there's always those little shifting and pulling going on in the body. Let that right leg extend to a three-legged down dog, pressing your heel up and back in space. And just like a pair of scissors opening where the blades keep facing the same directions, as you open your legs apart from one another, keep the hip, the front of the right hip, pointing down and back. So as the legs open up away from one another, the front of that right hip is still pointing down and back. On an exhale, bring your knee to your left elbow, shoulders above your hands. Inhale, reaches your right leg back up in space, three-legged down dog. And as you exhale, bring your knee to your right elbow, shoulders above your hands. Inhale, extend it back up. And on your exhale, just bring your knee to your forehead. Curl your forehead in towards your knee. Your back heel is high off the ground. Nice curl through the spine here. And then we're going to step up and work up to a low lunge position, just walking that right foot up in between the hands. From here, we can press off the ball of that left foot and start to find a high crescent lunge. Arms can open up tall. So feel the press of your individual feet and legs down into the mat. And then feel the way that your legs can tone into one another to stabilize you at center. So we're giving so much support to that front right knee as we're lunging into it. We're going to explore a vertical twist from here. Your spine stays upright in space. All you need to do on an exhale is let that right arm reach to the back of the room as your left arm extends to the front of the room. And we're still keeping those hips facing off in the same direction that we had them. Your gaze could just be over towards the side of the room. It could also be looking more towards the back of the room where that back right hand is stretching. Beautiful breathing. Nice. Let's on an inhale, just come back up into your high crescent lunge. Breathe in. And as you exhale, bring the hands back down into the ground into a low lunge. So for standing splits, this is just really a one-legged forward fold, standing forward fold. You press into your right foot, into your fingertips, your fists, or your palms, and then you're reaching that left leg back up behind you in space. I also like to think about that you're kind of pressing that back leg up through the strength of your arms and your upper body down to the ground. To begin with, you might want to be looking down at the ground as you're doing this, but then over time what you want to do is relax the weight of your head so that you're not actually looking to the ground, you're looking to the back of the room, and you're lengthening your spine down in space as you're pressing to your arms. Nice, Jane. We can take a full forward fold from here, friends, and then just a little curl squat, so as that left foot meets your right, you can just bring the heels off the ground. You're on the balls of the feet, and if you really want to get a nice curl for your spine, you can take a little wrap around your shins. Also play with your balance a little bit if both of the hands come off the ground. Otherwise, your hands could also just stay down to the ground as you just kind of curl into this. And then letting the heels plant to the ground, lift up into chair pose, into a squat. If you don't like that transition, you could lift all the way up into mountain, lengthen through your body, and then lower into your chair. Think about opening up through the chest inside of our chair pose. So even if you take your arms out a little bit wider and feel those shoulder blades, and again, just that strength on your upper spine, core nice and strong, and then your glutes, as we engage in a squat right there, pulling back up away from your knees. You got the strength of your upper legs, the press down into your lower legs. Lift your heels off the ground, balance on the balls of the feet like you were in your squat, and then explore the same vertical twist you took in your lunge, reaching your right arm back, left arm forward. Your knees might start to skew a little bit over to the right side of the room. Line the knees back up facing forward. By the way, I tend to practice with everything at hip bone distance. If you like to bring everything in tighter, you can have the big toes together, ankle bones, knees, and thighs all pressing in at center. Almost there, holding the center of gravity right over the balls of the feet. Nice, Paps. Let your right heel come to the ground, and then your arms and your left knee coming up into one-legged mountain. And just like you had both feet to the ground and you were taking that press and that lift, same idea. We're getting that full length in the spine as that left leg draws up. So for today, we're going to explore figure 4. There's an indentation on the outside of your ankle between the ankle bone and heel. We're going to slide that indentation on the outside of the ankle right over the crease of your right thigh so it notches up, and then your knee will gently flex out to the side. You can get a little flexion in your left foot, dorsal flexion, where your heel is pointing over to the right side of the room. Your toes are flexing back and in. We could also stay where we just were, right? Continue to practice on that one-legged mountain. If we're in figure 4, you're in a one-legged squat. So find the strength around that right leg. Maybe your hands are together at heart center. Maybe one hand to knee or one hand to heel. Nice, Abby. When you're ready, friends, you can start to rise up out of this one. And then as we rise out of it, start to press your left foot forward in space. And the challenge is to not fall back. The challenge is to pull down, kind of plug into center, and then press forward as you're lifting right up through that thigh. Nice, have a deep breath in, and try to swim back in one move to a low lunge position. We might not make it all the way right, but trying to tap your hands down and your left foot down. Once we find that low lunge, step back into a plank, and then bring your forearms down to a forearm plank, and use your right forearm for side plank. So rolling onto the outside edge of your right foot. You can plant the left foot over the right. If you need a kickstand, just take the left foot, the ball of it, to the ground back behind your right leg. Left hand can be to your hip, or left arm can be straight up in space. Find that press into the ground, that pull and lift of your hips away from it at the same time. Right on, Jen. And then you just come back onto your forearms. One at a time, press back up to your hands. And then again, your choice of how you're going to get to down dog. So it could be that halfway down, chaturanga, upward facing dog, then down dog. You can always skip that. We can take something more on the belly versus our upward facing dog. Let that left leg pull back and up in space from your down dog. And again, just like you're taking your heel and you're pressing your heel back and up in space. Just picture real quick, like those scissor blades, the way they open from one another, the blades don't change direction as they lift out. So the front of your left hip continues to point down and back as your left leg lifts away from the press of your right leg. On your next exhale, just bring your left knee over to your right elbow or tricep as close as it comes, shoulders above the hands. Inhale, extend back up. Exhale, knee to your left elbow or tricep as close as it comes, elbows above the hands. Inhale, extend up. And then bring the knee into your forehead, forehead into your knee. You can bring that back right heel off the ground. You can be more on the ball of the foot as those hips lift up. Awesome, Preston. And then we're working up into our low lunge. So putting that foot up between your hands and then walking it up the rest of the way in between your hands. Once you're feeling set up with that stance, just bringing it up into your high crescent lunge position. Excellent. Individual work of your legs, the tandem work of your legs, right? Pulling in, stabilizing. And then we're setting ourselves up in this one for that vertical twist, this time opening to the left. So your left hand just reaching behind you as your right arm extends forward. Your palms are high-fiving this side of the room. Your spine might want to lean a little bit forward and then just bring it right back so you got the center of your chest right over the center of your hips. Gaze could be to the side of the room or even twisting more back where your left hand is. Nice, Josh. Stay with your breath. You guys got it. Use an inhale to lift back up, find that high lunge. And then on the exhale, just come down into your low lunge. And we're going to take that one-legged standing forward fold. So your left leg is your base, standing splits, AKA standing splits. So pressing into your fingertips, your fists, your palms, and then reaching that right leg tall. And again, there's that tendency, right, to look down into the ground of what you're doing. See if you can get the head to relax even a little bit deeper, to take the gaze back behind you. Have the crown of the head down. On an exhale, we're just going to take a full forward fold, but you're going right into that little squat. So your feet can be separated or you can bring your knees together. Inside of this squat, you just get that nice curl through your back. And again, if you want to play more with your balance, you can wrap your arms around your shins or your knees as your forehead curls in. One or both hands can always be down into the ground. And then for our transition into Utkatasana chair pose, you could just plant your heels and then lift right out of that squat just into the deeper squat of chair, or you could come all the way up into mountain. Once you've got the length, then settle back into it. Nice, immediately feeling into the strength of the legs, into your glutes, right into your back muscles, right, your core, your upper back muscles. Start to bring the heels off the mat. You're on the balls of your feet. And then that same vertical twist that you took in your lunge. So your left hand reaching behind you. Right arm is forward. Palms open up. Nice cat, keeping those knees facing forward. If you've got skis on, right, keeping the skis going down the mountain, not to the side of the run. And then out of this one, we can let that left heel touch down. Inhale the arms and the right knee up in space. And feel that extension to the sky. But those arms really getting to plug down into the shoulder sockets as you lift that right knee tall. Great place to stay. For figure 4 on this side, again, think about the indentation on the outside of the ankle between ankle bone and heel, going over the ridge of your thigh, a little closer down towards the knee, so you're notching it up. You can do hands into your heart center, one hand to knee or heel. I saw some other awesome variations, so please take what works for you. Just that same note, some dorsal flexion in that right foot. Your heel pointing to the right side of the room, your toes gently flexing back. It's going to get some strength around your ankle. It's also going to get a little strength going around your knee as we're letting that knee open down and out. And then rise back up into your one-legged mountain, but start to add that extension. And one of the visuals I love is like there's gymnastic rings right where your hands are, and you're pulling down on those rings as you press into your left foot, and then you're reaching your right leg out from that position. Breathe in, and then try to swim back to low lunge in one move. You might make it might be a couple more moves than that. From our low lunge, we can just step back into our plank. Let those forearms come down to the ground. And this time, let your left forearm be your base for side plank as you roll onto the outside edge of your left foot, stacking your right foot over the left. Or just bringing the right foot back behind the left leg as a little kickstand. Awesome breathing. We get you to use that breath to dig into the strength side of things. Not that we need to overdo it, but there's always that exploring of the strength side of things. When you're ready, friends, just come back down to your forearms and then lift back up into the top of your plank. Let your knees touch down. Slide one of your hips to the ground and bring your legs forward in space. Come onto your back. So I'm just going to give you a little side profile, but you roll all the way onto your back. And then take your hands to your hamstrings, and with your low back plugged to the ground, get your gaze up towards your thighs. And then extend your arms up from there. Now, if your neck needs support, take one hand back behind the base of the skull with the elbow wide. You'll feel that flexion of your core muscles as your low back is pressing and your arms are doing that reach and your chest is doing that reach up in space. Keep cycling with your breathing. You're doing great. And now we'll start to get the left leg out to a diagonal and then reach our arms over to the right. Left leg out to a diagonal, right leg straight up in space, and arms just kind of reaching more out to the side. Nice, okay, let's switch that one out. So bring the left leg up, right leg to the diagonal, arms now reaching more out to the left. Okay, and then just a nice rest. So it might feel nice first to relax your head and bring your knees in and rock a little side to side. But then just open your body to a full morning stretch with the legs out in front of you, the arms back behind you. You can give a little roll out through your ankles and your wrists. And the full morning stretch just opens up through the abdominal wall, and you want to take a couple deep rounds of breath with that length. Hands behind the base of your skull. Head and shoulders are going to come up off of the ground. Bring your knees in so they're right above your hips, bottoms of the feet are pointing forward. And then start to extend both of your legs out to the diagonal. You can leave the hands behind the base of the skull or press the palms together. Reach the fingers towards the feet as you plug the shoulder blades back in towards one another as you lift the chest. Nice breathing. And then for boat pose, just grab your hamstrings, lift yourself up to your sit bones, find your balance. On the sit bones, feel that length up through your spine, cross your ankles, and then take the outside of your left forearm, press it to the outside of your right thigh, and a similar twist we took earlier on our backs. Nice breathing. So come back to center, cross your ankles the other way, outside of your right forearm, outside of left thigh, left arm opens, take a little bit of that twist to the left. And then for the last few rounds of breath, uncross the ankles, press your hands into your thighs, and your thighs back into your hands, lengthen up through your spine. Last couple rounds of breath. Beautiful, friends. So we're going to do a big stretch in Sphinx pose out of this one. So it's going to be all the way forward. You can move from a plank to Sphinx or just take your legs back. But we get the hips down into the mat, the belly down into the mat, and then we just press up to the forearms, press into the forearms, lift up through the chest. If you'd like to do a little movement in your neck while you're here, start to turn your gaze to the right wall, bringing your chin a little closer down towards your right shoulder. And then if you're taking that twist to the right, let's just do the same thing over on the left. Let the head come forward. You leave the head upright, or let the head relax forward as you continue to lift up through your shoulders. Awesome, friends. From that Sphinx pose, lower the chest down, tuck through your toes, and make your way into your down dog. For Wild Thing, the right leg lifts back up in space to a three-legged down dog to begin with. You can stay here if you'd like to, but for the Wild Thing, you start to open the hip and bend the knee, draping the toes down over to the left so the heel's towards your sit bone, the knees up in space. And then pivoting with your left hand, we flip the dog. And your right heel lands back behind you with your heel under your knee. Your left leg can stay extended like side planks here on the knife edge of it, or you can bring the left heel underneath your left knee like bridge. The right arm reaches forward to the front of the room as the hips pull up away from the ground. And then we can turn this back into our three-legged down dog. Draw that right leg back up tall in space and step up into a low lunge. For warrior one, just walk your feet out a little bit wider from one another and then drop the knife edge of your left foot to the ground, but give it a little bit of a forward angle of that foot in space so that you can twist that left hip slightly forward. Arms come up like a high crescent lunge, but there's this really interesting grip down into the mat with that back edge of that left foot to the ground, and that interesting twist through your hips. Again, and that twist doesn't need to be overdone. You don't want to feel like you're yanking away from that back leg. You can drop the hands behind, interlace the fingers, the knuckles. Inhale the knuckles down as the chest draws up. And then take that humble warrior, so bowing your right shoulder towards the inside of the right thigh. Head relaxes. Clasped arms lift up to the sky. Awesome, Amy. Your right shoulder can just hover above your thigh. Could rest on it. Could come to the inside of it. We keep that bit of strength going in the legs and just get this really nice forward fold through the spine and that really nice opening through the arms. And then on an inhale, friends, rise back up. And for half moon pose, I'm going to use my block on level 3, a little bit out in front of my right foot. So as I lean forward and take my right hand to the block, I lift the left foot off the ground, and I'm just putting that right block right underneath the shoulder. And from there, opening up like a star through the body to face the left wall. That left heel pressing back into the wall behind you. Your full wingspan going from your bottom right fingertips up through your left fingertips. If you want to make a bind out of this, you can bend that back left knee. You can even bring the knee into your chest and then take your hand to the top of the foot and then gently kick the foot into the hand. And then you could also, at the very end of it, if you want, shoot to float that bottom hand away from the ground. So kind of like you're doing a half namaste at your chest. Just bring that right hand up to your chest. We're ready for a low lunge. And then that low lunge will take us back into plank. And again, your choice of how you're going into down dog. Okay, we're going to grab that little sequence on the left. So the left leg lifts up. Find a three-legged down dog. Start to open the hip and bend the knee. Drape the toes down over to the right, the heel towards your sit bone. And then you can stay here or flip the dog for a wild thing. Left heel underneath your left knee as the hips lift up. Left arm extends forward, gaze goes up. And then your right leg gets to either stay like side plank, where you're on the knife edge of it, extended, or like bridge, with the heel underneath your knees. When you're ready, friends, just turn back to your three-legged down dog. Inhale the left leg back up tall. And on the exhale, work up into your low lunge. For our warrior one, give a little bit of space between your feet. Drop the knife edge of that right foot to the ground. Again, rather than the toes pointing directly to the right, you can give them a little bit of a forward angle. Arms lift up like you're in that high crescent lunge. And feel that grip down into all that space on your mat that you've got there. Breathe into it, and then just swim the hands behind, interlace at your knuckles. Draw your knuckles down as your chest lifts up, and you can bow, find that humble warrior. And again, just letting the weight of that head just relax, the weight of that head just release here. Perfect. So as you rise out of this into your warrior one, the last part of this sequence is that half moon pose. So you could set your block up, and then you're taking the weight into your left foot, block underneath your left hand, right leg lifting, pressing the heel to the wall behind you, and extending up through those right fingertips. And that stack of your hips in space. Gaze can always stay down to the ground. That's a great place. Can work it to the side or work it up. Right on. So if we're going for the bind and you haven't moved into it yet, you can just bring that right knee maybe a little closer to your chest and then hook the right hand at the top of the right foot. Gently kick the foot into the hand. We could leave the left hand completely down to the ground the whole time as the base, or let the left leg become the sole base, and then bring that left hand up to your chest, again, kind of like that half namaste. Right on, we're ready for the last low lunge of this practice, the last plank of this practice, and the last move into down dog. Let your knees come down to the ground. Drop one of your hips to the ground. Bring your legs forward in space. And then for Badakanasana, Cobbler's pose, the bottoms of the feet together. Just walking yourself to the front edge of your sit bones or pulling the flesh away. And from the front edge of your sit bones, getting the full length of your spine up nice and tall. Breathe into it. On your exhale, just hinge forward in space. And then we get three things, right? We get to extend the spine forward. Crown of the head reaches forward. We get to bow the spine so the chest moves a little closer to the feet. And then we get to let the knees just gently open the hips as they go down. Start to bring your spine back upright. Slide your hips up, and then just work your way onto your back. Drawing the knees in towards your chest, wrapping your arms around the shins, and just giving yourself a rock side to side. Massaging out the hips and the sacrum, the low back. Let your left foot come down to the ground and just send your right ankle over the top of the left knee or thigh. You can just keep that left foot rooted to the ground, or if you'd like to move this into that reclined pigeon, just interlace the hands around the shin or the hamstring on that left leg. Draw the knee into your chest and just take that little rock side to side. Same shape that we set up earlier when we were in that figure 4, that balance. We're going to keep a bit of this shape. Just let your left foot come back down to the ground. And then let your left leg fall down all the way over to the left. Your right ankle will slide a little more to the inside of that left thigh. And then you want to let your right knee just kind of reach down towards your left foot. You can twist your right arm to the right. You can take your gaze a little bit to the right. So it's a little bit kind of like a half lotus almost, where you're letting, again, that right knee open down towards your left foot, stretch down towards your left foot. And as you come back up to center, just take the full morning stretch again, just a reset, legs out in front of you, arms behind you, giving that roll out through your ankles and through your wrists. And we'll switch out that reclined pigeon, just letting your right foot come to the ground and sending your left ankle over the top of your right knee or thigh. Right foot remains rooted, or pick the foot up off the ground, interlace your hands around the shin or the hamstring on that right leg, and as you draw the knee into the chest, we can get a little bit of that dorsal flexion in your left foot and let your left knee gently flex forward. Shooting to let the weight of the head just relax down. Maybe a little bit of that rocking side to side. And then this variation, your right foot comes to the ground. You let your right knee fall all the way down to the right. And then your ankle slides a little more to the inside of the thigh. And you start to stretch your left knee down towards your right foot. And again, it's kind of like half lotus. It's more like a cross-legged position. You can open your right arm to the right and take your gaze out over to the right. Friends, come out of this and either take your legs straight up in space with a waterfall with the block on level 1, just underneath the edge of your hips. Or if you'd like to take that into shoulder stand, you can press the triceps down into the ground at your sides. Lift the hips up off the ground. Your hands are to your low back, legs extending. And then you can drop those legs back behind you to plow pose as you would like. If you're up in our shoulder stand, just a note on the weight of the pose not pressing into your neck, that we're keeping the weight of the pose on the base of the skull, on the shoulders, and the triceps. And if you take those legs eventually back into that plow pose, reaching back behind you in space, deeper is not always better, right? We're looking just for a nice, good level of sensation, a balanced level of sensation. One in which we can still let that breath come in and do its work. And then as you start to come out of plow pose and you bring your hips back into the ground, or if you're in waterfall, you can slide the block out of the way, bring your hips to the ground. Just open this up into our happy baby. So peace sign fingers to the big toes, knees out wide, bottoms of the feet pointing to the sky, ankles stacked above the knees, and gently pulling down on this frame, letting your hips ground into the mat as you rock a little side to side. Weight of your head just relaxed behind you. Stretch and reach your right leg all the way flat out in front of you. Reach your left leg straight up to the sky. Give a roll out through your ankle. You can grab onto the back of the leg. And then for a supine twist, we can either keep the leg extended or bend the knee. Your right hand will bring the leg down over to the right, roll onto the outside edge of the right hip. Left arm reaches to the left, and your gaze can just go out across those left fingertips. So just twisting from the tailbone all the way up through the crown of the head. As you come out of that twist, you can just bring the knees into the chest, give a little bit of that rock on your back. Let your left leg extend flat out in front of you. Stretch the right leg to the sky. Grab to the back of your right leg and give a nice roll out through the ankle. And then for our twist on this side, leave the leg extended or bend the knee. Left hand will pull the right leg down over to the left.
Right arm reaches to the right, and the gaze goes out across the fingertips. And then just letting the breath snake its way through your spine. And friends, as you come out of this twist, just bring the knees in towards your chest and give yourself that last little hug, that last little rock on your back. Start to make your moves into your corpse posture, your Shavasana. So add any more layers of clothing you need to keep yourself warm and comfortable. I've got the heat turned up a little bit so it'll stay with us while we're resting here. And Shavasana just is our exploration in stillness. This space where we get to let go. And it's that physical letting go, right? Letting the weight of the body just stay relaxed. But then that deeper, like mental, emotional release. So nice and slow, just start to bring some life to your body. Wiggle through your fingers, move through your toes. Take a big stretch to the back of the room through your arms. Reach to the front of the room through your legs. Roll out your ankles and your wrists. And then turn the weight of your body onto your side into a fetal position, just curling up, relaxing. Bring yourself up to a comfortable cross-legged position, or however you'd like to end your class. And as if we were going to sit and meditate, just take a moment and find the front edge of your sit bone. So pull the flesh away, walk them back. Lengthen up through the spine, maybe give the shoulder heads a little roll down away from the ears. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether it is clear to you or not, no doubt the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. Have a beautiful rest of the night. Much love. Namaste.
Oggi è che ha senza me